All right, welcome to weekly edition of Soccer Pub Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Crouchell, bringing Drew Dinsick and Brad Thomas at the end to talk about our best bets in the Premier League this weekend. But let's welcome in our special guest, Gary O'Reilly, 14 years as a pro, Gary, for Tottenham, Brighton, Crystal Palace, teams that will be relevant to the discussion we have. But let's start off with a competition those teams aren't participating in. That's the Champions League. Man City rocked Real Madrid 4-0 yesterday, and now they head into the final against Inter Milan, where they are minus 455 favourites. So market thinks they're about an 80% chance to win the Champions League. Do you think Inter give them a match, or do you think this is just going to be a procession?
I think Inter give them a game. I mean, you look at what Inzaghi has to offer, apart from his intensity and running up and down the sidelines. You're looking at him able to switch out Dzeko and bring in Lukaku. He switches out his wing-backs maybe halfway through the second half, refreshes the legs, keeps the intensity going. They've got a great player in Brozovic, the Croatian in centre midfield, who anchors absolutely everything. He's Mr. Continuity. I think they really will put City to the test. I think City will pass it, although it's a strange thing for them in a Champions League final to be the favourites.
Yeah, it is. And the book on Pep in the Champions League has always been that he overcomplicates things, or he just tinkers too much. Do you think that he does anything weird in the final? Do you think we see Haaland in goal, Kevin De Bruyne playing left back? Do you think we see any weirdness, or do you think he just
he's going to bench De Bruyne and he's going to bench Haaland? Yeah. And he's just going to mess. I don't know. I mean, maybe he just is. I mean, who am I to look at what is possibly the greatest coach we've seen in the game and say, you're getting it wrong, dude? I don't know I'm placed to make that comment, and a few people are. It might be that he plays it straight, and everyone's expecting him to play Bernardo Silva at fullback again, and he doesn't, and he lets him off the hook like he did yesterday, and the results are obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think they are certainly well-deserving of their favouritism. They're also heavy favourites to win the Premier League. You can pretty much write your own ticket on Arsenal winning at this point. And City, they host Chelsea, 9 a.m. Eastern on USA Network. City are minus 425 favourites to win that. Chelsea are 10-1. Do you think Chelsea give them any game here, or do they wrap up the title with 3 points?
There's always what people refer to as the puncher's chance. And Chelsea do have that ability. I just think they're going to... Watching City play Madrid in the second leg of the semi-final, I don't think I've seen a more complete and controlled performance as a team for a long time. I think that is going to take them to a point where they know they can bag the title, retain their own title as they will look at it. And I think Chelsea will struggle. They've struggled, sadly, for most of the season, and I don't see them coming out of that for a while.
What do you think of Mauricio Pochettino at Chelsea? Do you think that he can salvage this operation, or do you think that the club is just such a mess, and the fact that they've got 80 players who all do the same thing and are overpaid, that it's just unsalvageable?
I think in there's a good team. There is a good team, and it's shown it can be a good team. And I think, you've lost Jorginho, you've lost Rudiger out of there, and they're key components. I think Pochettino, what's interesting is he's sat out. From my mind, he is probably analysing every training session they do remotely, working out what it is that he has to solve before he gets through the front door. And I think we'll see something interesting in a positive way happen with Chelsea under Pochettino. I hope so, because it's a club that's tasted success very recently, and the fact that they are languishing in mid-table obscurity is, that's not a Chelsea thing.
Yeah, it's bizarre just to take a step back and think that, 2 years ago, they were beating Man City in a Champions League final, and now Man City head back to the Champions League final as massive favourites, and Chelsea will be pretty lucky to finish 11th at this point in the Premier League. So, hopefully they can get back on track. Now, Gary, you've got a pretty unique podcast with an astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, called Star Talk Sports Edition. Wasn't really ready for that in the prep, but that's a fun one. So just pretty keen for your thoughts on just this season in general and the weirdness of it in terms of the World Cup being scheduled in the middle of the season, and I guess the sports science aspects of the fatigue the players are dealing with. Have you noticed that kind of surface across the top leagues, or what kind of impact do you think it's had?
And thank you for mentioning the podcast, by the way. Very kind of you. The World Cup kind of affected people and didn't affect people. I mean, you think Ollie Watkins, Aston Villa, didn't really get involved, can't stop scoring since the Premier League resumed. Then you look at other players, Marcus Rashford, he got involved, was there part of the England setup, came back, just carried on as if nothing had happened. Some players, I think, teams that underperformed, countries that underperformed, for example, Belgium, some of their players came back, and I think the burden of their early exit messed with the melon. It just, stayed in their mind for longer than they'd hope, and they had to kind of brush it off, and it took more time. So apart from injuries, I think most people were able to come back and go again. You look at Martinez at Manchester United, you look at McAllister at Brighton, they don't seem to have been affected, and they've gone all the way to the winners' podium and had no problems when they got back.
Yeah, I think probably the team most affected in Europe by the World Cup was a team that, most of the people listening to this probably won't be paying as much attention to, and that's PSG, where just Messi and Mbappe, I mean, they had their titanic battle at the mountaintop, and then coming back and facing, Lens and Auxerre on a random Saturday probably doesn't hold the same appeal and create the same intensity. So PSG have fallen off a little bit, but it seems like they'll still waltz to the title, such as their talent advantage in Ligue 1.
But that's a test of their professionalism, Jay.
Yeah.
And any player who is at the very peak of Mount Olympus, where all the gods live, people like Messi, people like Neymar, Mbappe, then when you go out to play the so-called lesser clubs, it's easy to drop your performance levels off. So it's a test of professionalism for them to stay on point for all of that season. Yep.
And to their credit, I mean, they fell off a little bit after the World Cup, but it seemed like the past couple of weeks they've gotten right on track, and they should run through the finish line in League. Let's talk about running through the finish lines, finish on the top 6 in the Premier League. Liverpool,
I know where you're going.
Yeah. Let's talk about your old club. Let's talk about Spurs.
Please.
Very weird, wonky season for Spurs. Like kind of the less disastrous version of Chelsea season in a way, where, I mean, Spurs were a team that people thought could contend for the Premier League, or at least, contend for top 2, top 3. Now they're contending for top 6, and they play a plucky Brentford side. They are favourites. They are at home. Do you think ultimately they will take care of Brentford this weekend?
Part of me says yes. Part of me says, don't take Brentford for granted, even if they do not have Ivan Toney up front. Yep. I mean, don't forget, Toney scored close on 50% of their total of goals this season. It's 20 in 33. So this is something that is going to be a miss. Then, you're not going to easily replace that. So Tottenham, on paper, should be able to do this. But then again, we have taken a Champions League spot and turned it into possibly a Europa League conference spot.
Yep.
I mean, how do you do that? I mean, it is totally Spursy this season. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I suffer from Tottenham Tourette's right now, and I may not get over that until sometime in the summer. But that's a fact. So yeah, I think Spurs should beat them. With all due respect, Chelsea thought that when they played Brentford recently and got handed an L. So it's not to be taken for granted.
What do you think about the talent level in Tottenham's squad at the moment? I think opinions vary about, to the extent that they have underachieved. But I mean, you look at guys like Richarlison, who they've got so little out of this season. Do you think there's enough talent in the team that, with a strong kind of manager performance next season, they get straight back to being in the top 4? Or do you think there are things that need to be improved around the edges?
I think you have to have a lot of improvement, because to fall out of the top 4 race when Liverpool aren't firing on all cylinders, Chelsea have gone AWOL, and you know what? Man United haven't been the Man United that all Man United fans think they should be. So there was a space to fill, and Newcastle filled it. Tottenham should have really been in there because of the talent that they have. Richarlison won't give you anything if you've got him on the bench. And if you've got him on the bench a lot, he's not the kind of guy that reacts positively. He's going to be unhappy. We've seen what he can do. You just watch him in the World Cup, and his energy levels can be amazing. Son hasn't performed as well as people had hoped to be. Harry's been Harry. The departure of Bentancur during the season for the injury, I think that was a turning point, because I thought he was pivotal to what Conte was trying to achieve with that group. Going into the analysis a little bit further, to keep coming back from having conceded 2, 3, 4 goals is not a game plan that can be sustained. So it was a case of like, you know what, we go into half time with a clean sheet and we go out and we keep that clean sheet for the next half. And that mentality did not seem to be present for Tottenham. Whoever comes in, I would imagine, would want to address that.
Yeah, I think, on Richarlison, I thought it was so poetic that, his great moments for the season was equalising against Liverpool, and then they concede the winner, seconds later, effectively, which kind of sums up how things have gone for Richarlison, for better or worse. Last one for you, Gary. Let's talk about the bottom of the table, which is, I think, the most compelling race at the moment, with the title effectively wrapped up. Top 4 still in a little bit of doubt, but down the bottom is the most important. Southampton have been mathematically relegated. Who do you think are the 2 teams most likely to join them? By the bookies odds at the moment, Leicester and Leeds are the clear favourites to get relegated.
Leeds concede silly goals.
Yeah.
They're not bad. They got a threat of goal scoring, but it's not a big threat. Leicester, again, they concede too many silly goals, but they are able to score goals. They do have that potency in there. It's just that they keep throwing them away at the back. So I'm looking at Leicester's confidence, and I'm just thinking, I'm not sure it's there. I'm not sure it's there. They could prove me wrong. Leeds look like they can implode at any minute. That got hammered by Crystal Palace, and that really was a body blow for them. Everton, they again don't score goals, but they're not bad at the back. They really do kind of hold off, and you're thinking, maybe they can get a point, maybe get a couple of draws before we get to the final part of the season. At the moment, I think it is, as the bookies would draw your attention to, Leeds and Leicester that join the Saints in the Championship. Yeah,
I think the big game in this race was Everton putting 5 past Brighton, and really, because that was a result
who saw that coming?
I mean, you would have expected 5-1 the other way. And the fact that Everton were able to pull that out on, their 23 goals on that Monday between the 3 games. And so I think that really ultimately shaped the race and probably saved Everton's season, because if they didn't get that result, they would be right in the thick of it with Leicester and Leeds. Though they're still not safe just yet.
Gary, Leeds, you look at Leeds. Sorry, you look at the run-in they had when Sam Allardyce joined, and you're thinking they've got to play Man City, then they've got to play Nottingham Forest, West Ham and Tottenham. The one game in there that's going to save them is West Ham. So they basically brought Sam Allardyce in to manage Leeds United for one game.
Yeah.
It's been that kind of season.
Yeah. Do you think they get a result against West Ham?
Depending on West Ham's ultimate outcome against AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League.
Yeah.
That will be pivotal.
Yes. Feels like West Ham didn't really, they weren't all there against Brentford on the weekend. Feels like they were looking ahead to the Conference League tie against Alkmaar, which kicks off later today. Gary, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
You've got one of the best social media handles around at my 3 left feet. Can you tell people what else you're working on at the moment?
I sit in on the Grumpy Pundits on Sirius XM FC. So get to host that. I'm the creative producer on a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is science and sport. Sometimes there's no sport and it's all science, but it's a lot of fun. We have a stand-up comedian and actor, Chuck Nice. So it's a lot of fun, me doing that. Plus, I get the occasional time to do game commentaries on Copa Libertadores, Sudamericana, and then go back to England and do some things for Talk Sport Radio. So busy bee.
Yeah, fair bit going on there. Lovely. Everyone should check it out. Gary, thank you so much for your time, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Pleasure.
All right. Before we bring in Drew Dinsick and Brad Thomas, a reminder to download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, let's bring in Brad Thomas and noted Premier League capper Drew Dinsick. Pitch _ capper on Twitter. Let's start with you, Brad. What's your best bet of the weekend?
My best bet, Newcastle versus Leicester City. Newcastle -1.5 on the goal line. First, this match it passes the eye test, right? We have a Leicester City team who've been very leaky on the road, haven't been playing together, and a Newcastle team who have guys like Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak playing in form. I explicitly named those two guys because, man, what a luxury they have. Callum Wilson, 17 goals on the season. He's in crazy form. I think he has like 7 goals in 8 games. Then you have Alexander Isak, when he starts or he plays, he's just scoring in bunches. I think it's a total mismatch. I don't want to play this game on anything other than the goal line here, because when Newcastle win, they win by a lot. They just keep scoring, especially in their home stadium.
Yep, and they'll want to rectify recent results as well, and lock up top 4 with Liverpool starting to knock on the door a little bit. Drew, what do you got? Any Crystal Palace or a different Palace?
Oh yeah, it was chasing a little last week, but boy, oh boy, did it come through. It was just a super solid Premier League weekend, and our villains, Jay, high five! Just an incredible win against Tottenham.
Yes.
Now, there's no easy ones like that on the board this week, so I'm going to go with one that maybe looks a little too easy, but that's okay. We're going to go Man City. Win 2-0 is plus money. Chelsea, as was covered in great detail, stink. And they've quit. And they can't score even when they're trying. So why in the world would they get on the board against a Man City team right now that is clicking on all cylinders? This looks like all systems go for Man City. 3-0, 4-0 win seems likely. 2-0 would surprise me, but not shock me. Any kind of action whatsoever from Chelsea on a counter, any kind of creative development of goal scoring intensity from Chelsea would surprise me. So the fact that you're getting better than a 50-50 shot on Man City to win 2-0 is amazing, and I will take that. And of course, I'm going to pad the account with a little Crystal Palace draw no bet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Chelsea, they're not the worst team in the Premier League, but they are the most reprehensible at the moment, and certainly feels like it will be poetic for them to be the doormat of which Man City to stomp their feet on the way to the Premier League title, which they should wrap up this weekend. I'm going with Brentford, who are a popular choice for me, kind of an expected goals darling. Going with a draw no bet against Tottenham. Plus 200. I know that Ivan Toney won't be there, and he is very important for them, but I think this Tottenham team at the moment is such a rabble. Never seen a team create so many chances offside as Tottenham did against Aston Villa on the weekend. I think defensively they're still a bit of a mess. I don't think they really have that much to play for either. This is a team that had designs on finishing top 2 before the season. Now they are extremely long to finish even in the top 6, with Brighton's win against Arsenal probably locking that up for Brighton. So I think for Tottenham, I think they will lose to Brentford, even with Brentford on the road. Tottenham, they've won 2 of their past 9 Premier League games, and one of those was against Brighton in a game that Brighton really should have not just drawn, but should have won. So not impressed at all with Tottenham's form, and expect that Brentford will get a result in London. Okay, that's it for us. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wages. Thanks to you, Brad Thomas, to you, Drew Dinsick. Thanks to Gary O'Reilly as well. We'll be back tomorrow. Cheers.